What's up, YouTube? Capital G here, making a short little video about Cosmos. And I would just ask the Yu-Gi-Oh community to please make up their mind on this deck and how competitive that I guess we believe that Cosmos are going to be, not just right now, but I guess for the next couple of months until we get our new anticipated ban list, which most people would assume is going to drop somewhere between like the first week of March and the first week of April. I would just have to guess that, because for like the sake of the secondary market and for the sanity of anybody who has any aspirations of playing this deck competitively, this is kind of crazy. I mean, if you look at Kozmo Dart Destroyer, I don't think that I've ever seen anything like this. And I mean, we see price fluctuations happen all the time. I mean, there have been numerous occasions where cards will triple in price in the span of like a weekend or a day based on what they do at an event. I mean, we all remember like what happened with Sir Talonites, where Deneb was like a $12 card and then it won an ARG. Next thing we know, it was a $40 card in Vanity's Emptiness. We know about cards skyrocketing like Dante and Tour Guide. Their sneak peek prices are low, then they go up. We've seen the market tank on Breaker of Shadows. Basically the opposite happening. We've pretty much seen it all, but I don't think I've seen anything like this, where we have a card that when it came out in Dimension of Chaos, it had a whole bunch of hype and it was well deserving of that hype. This still to the day, this is a card that people kind of, I would say, have to go out of their way to kill. I mean, yeah, you can Regeki this motherfucker, but like it's just gonna trigger, and then like you might lose cards on your side of the field to Slip Rider, so like that doesn't really serve you any purpose. And then when you kill that, that triggers too, so that's just creating a whole nother mess. But like, I mean, yeah, there are ways of getting around this card. Obviously, Ignister and Monarchs have Erebus and Monarchs Stormforth and whatnot. But again, those are things that I would say you have to kind of go out of your way to kill Dart Destroyer. So it was definitely worth the hype. And when it came out in docks, the card was about $130. And Cosmos were very consistent when docks was out. But I think people started generally realizing that as powerful as Cosmos were, they weren't quite as powerful as the Pendulum decks. They weren't quite as powerful as Pepe, the Dimension of Chaos build of Pepe, or Pendulum Magicians. And, you know, you could have a lot of attacks in the battle phase as Cosmos do, and they can OTK even through a damage juggler sometimes. But it still wasn't like as good as just, you know, playing like a Luster Pendulum and a Plush Fire and just winning because you open up like Buku Broke, or, you know, playing a Monkey Board or top decking a Joker and just winning off of that because, you know, you get the Pendulum like 5 monsters or some shit like that. Like it's a little, it's not quite as OP as obviously the Pendulum mechanic. And you started to see kind of there being this anti-Cosmo, like, I guess, movement where people were like, Cosmo's not even that good, man. You know, Cosmos aren't going to be anywhere near as good as Pepe, blah, 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 this, blah, 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 that. I never really spoke on that because I thought it was just kind of like foolish rhetoric. I was just like, what? Like, what's really changed? Cosmos are still topping in events. Like, I've always had the mindset of, look, go over the last 2 months. You go find me an ARG, a regional, or a YCS where Cosmos didn't top 8. Like, go ahead and go try and find one. Cosmos have topped like every single event. So I didn't really know where that was coming from, but it became very popular, and it became a very popular mindset, and it was reflected in the secondary market. I mean, if you look at this card, okay, there's your $100, your $130 price tag right there, November 9th. And you see all it does is just go down and down and down. Okay, it goes up a little bit, but then pretty much just goes down under $100. And you see that Dart Destroyer just kept going down because people started thinking, oh man, Cosmo's nowhere near as good as, you know, these performance decks. And when full power Pepe comes out and Bosch, it's just going to be, you know, kind of DOA. And I mean, let's go to the first week of January. This is when Dart Destroyer kind of hit its ultimate low. I mean, you'll see the card is, I believe at one point it was like 60. There we go. $67, right? Obviously, this tells you that a lot of the Yu-Gi-Oh community don't believe Cosmos are nearly as good as Pepe, despite the fact that this is like undoubtedly one of the cards outside of, well, Slip Rider and Ness are the only cards that you always need 3 of them. It's pretty much non-negotiable. You don't really see anybody like, oh man, you know, I only run 2 Dart Destroyer because it clogs. Like, nah, that's fucking stupid. You always run 3 Dart Destroyer. You always run 3 Slip Rider. It's way too important. But then it's like, you look today, I mean, January 5th, we're at what, the 23rd right now? I mean, we're talking less than 3 weeks. This card is $100. I mean, what's changed? What's changed in the last 3 weeks? Like, that's what I want to know. What has changed? I mean, yes, Cosmos now. I mean, their trap lineup has shifted a little bit from, assuming you're running like the standard version of Cosmos, you don't have to run things like time space anymore because, in my opinion, Solemn Strike is kind of power crept that card. Like, I think it's just better. It pretty much does the same thing against Pendulum Summons, just for a lot less life points. And it's just like an overall better card. But I mean, even the artifact versions of Cosmos were available then, so it's not like the artifacts were anything it's not like they're anything new over the last couple of weeks or the last month or anything. The artifact builds have existed for a couple of months now, so I don't quite understand why Dart Destroyer is on this weird path that I've never seen, where a card starts out really high, then goes and loses about like half of its value, and then like less than 3 weeks just shoots right back up. Like, what is this? This is absolute madness. Now, for anybody who thought that Cosmos were just gonna fall off the planet or they weren't gonna be able to keep up with the pendulum decks, I mean, at YCS Sydney, the deck did go undefeated in Swiss. The guy did take third place. I mean, if you take third place, don't try and tell me he couldn't beat Pepe consistently, because he fucking went undefeated and he got third. So obviously he was beating enough Pepe players. So it tells you like the deck can beat pendulum it can beat pendulum decks. I'm sure that obviously they'll have some sided stuff for Monarchs when those come out. So I don't quite understand why it's on this loop-de-loop. And it tells me that the Yu-Gi-Oh community is really fickle, because it seems like we can't even make up our minds on Cosmos. Is like the deck good? Is it not good? Because when I get on Dueling Network, like 90% of the games that I see are either Cosmos or Pepe. Like, I really don't see that much Mermail. I don't want to say that Mermail flop, but like, I really just, it's not as popular. I think it's a really good deck, but I don't see that much Mermail. I don't see that much Burning Abyss. Pretty much 90% of the games are Cosmos, Pepe, and sort of like those decks matching up against each other or mirror matches or something like that. So it seems like right now we look at we look at Cosmos as like the second best deck, but we still won't commit to giving it to saying that it's as good as Performages or Pals, or it's on the level of Performages and Pals, despite what all the other figures say. I mean, again, show me a regional or a YCS or an ARG event where like Cosmos didn't make top 8. You know what I mean? I personally don't think it's as good as Performages and Pals, but it's like it's not on a lower tier. I mean, I think they're pretty much on the same tier, or maybe I would say like Pepe's half a tier higher than a deck like Cosmos. But you guys let me know what you think. I mean, do you think that this is kind of crazy that like Dart Destroyer keeps going up and down over like the last month? Because I guess the community can't really decide, like, is Cosmos good or is it just not good? Like, let's just make up our minds, and either the deck's going to be good and the card's going to be expensive, or it's like, fuck it, Cosmos suck and let it be cheap. Because for anybody who like wants to build Cosmos, it must be tearing you up inside, because you don't know if you should try and wait this out, wait for Monarchs to come out, and then, the Cosmo hype will die down. This card could potentially drop to like $67 again, or if you should just pick this up, because who knows in 2 weeks, if Cosmos end up winning YCS Atlanta somehow, this shit might jump back up to 130. So you guys let me know what you think. Thank you for watching as always.